less than 8% of the plastic ever produced since like 1950s has ever been recycled. Plastic has a lot of benefits, right? It's cheap, it's light, it can hold the temperature, it's insulating, etc. But what that meant was that with the growing demand of food delivery and hence the growing order volume, there was a lot of single-use plastic waste generated which wasn't collected back and probably landfilled or burned. So InfinityBox is aimed at creating a reuse platform for not just food delivery but for any quick commerce delivery today.
Generally, like we see a problem, but actually turning that into a solution and then creating an impact-driven startup out of it. So what were your initial steps?
So to be honest, my first step was just confusion. Like I did not know why he was doing what he was doing and is that the way that everything is handled.
So welcome Shashwat on the Climapreneur show. I'm excited and delighted to have you here today to talk about what you're doing at InfinityBox.
Thank you so much for having me, Shweta. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So Shashwat, tell us what are you building?
So single-use plastic is a big problem for our generation and the upcoming generations. If the simplest of stats on the internet would tell you that less than 8% of the plastic ever produced since like 1950s has ever been recycled. And that's probably an overestimated figure because a lot of that just leaks into our oceans, our landfills, is burned, consumed by animals one way or the others. Food delivery is a similar market in the sense that when food delivery started out globally, it was always served in single-use plastic containers because plastic has a lot of benefits, right? It's cheap, it's light, it can hold the temperature, it's insulating, etc. But what that meant was that with the growing demand of food delivery and hence the growing order volume, there was a lot of single-use plastic waste generated which wasn't collected back and probably landfilled or burned. So InfinityBox is aimed at creating a reuse platform for not just food delivery but for any quick commerce delivery today. So we want to reuse the resources that have already been utilized in creating different products like plastic containers which are used for delivering food over and over again and ensure that they're completely recyclable at their end of life so that we can create a truly circular economy.
Shashwat, break down the word quick commerce for the audience.
So quick commerce would be anything that's delivered to your house frequently and in a high density area. So a 10-minute grocery delivery is quick commerce, right? Anything that not just 10-minute delivery, but like a big basket which delivers the next day, but it does deliver to a lot of locations, means high density and frequently, which could be daily. That is what I categorize, or we at InfinityBox categorize as quick commerce.
And what got you interested into the food sector only? What got your attention to the sector?
So I think as with a lot of entrepreneurs, it's something that, you touch and feel, you face the problem and then you try and come up with a solution. So when I was in IIT Kharagpur, like last year, we used to order in all the time because, mess food is not the best out there. So there was a lot of single-use plastic waste generated. But at the beginning, to be honest, I never really paid a lot of attention to it because that's how food delivery started out, right? That's what we were accustomed to. But there was a day when me and my friends were going outside of the campus and we saw that the garbage collector was actually burning these plastic containers and his kids were playing around it. And everybody has read that, burning plastic is not good for health, to say the least. And that's when I researched a bit to realize that that's what usually happens, it's either waste, landfill or burned. And hence I wanted to, do something to change that. To find a solution for that problem.
So when you saw, say, the garbage collector actually burning the, the package or whatever it was there, what was the first step that you took? Because I'm asking you this question because generally we see a problem, but actually turning that into a solution and then creating an impact-driven startup out of it. So what were your initial steps?
So to be honest, my first step was just confusion. Like I did not know why he was doing what he was doing and is that the way that everything is handled. So my first step was actually research and figure out what happens to all this single-use plastic waste that we generate. And that's what really got me interested into this industry. And after that, I realized that to cater to India's specific cuisine needs of hot curries, which is like Japanese, North Indian, South Indian, Thai, Chinese, which is like 75% of the market, you have to use something which can, hold the temperature, does not leak, does not absorb food, etc. And plastic was the only choice. So that's what sort of got me started. That there are a lot of there's a big problem out there. Nobody's like doing anything about it, and we need to. And then what took me a step further was basically looking at models abroad, right? I mean, European people are generally more advanced or more concerned about the environment, so to speak. So the idea was that they had started a lot of these reuse coffee cup models, right? Because the culture in well, abroad or North America and Europe at least is that you go out in the morning to the office and you get a cup of coffee and you drop it there, right? And that was a big problem, and that's why they had come up with these reuse cup models. But in India, that wasn't the culture. The culture was ordering in, and I saw a similar problem, but no solution existed. So that is when we started thinking about it.
And like, when you actually like came up with a solution, who were your first set of like, say, whom did you first pitch to? Were these restaurants, cafes, and like what were their initial response?
Yep. So I think after we researched a bit, we figured out what can be done, how the model can work. Um, we immediately wanted to, pilot. So what we did was we actually spoke to a few seniors from Kharagpur who were working at the Swiggies and the Zomatos to ask them like, what do you think, right? Like because they were there seeing the problem on the ground, even if they hadn't thought about it, but then they would know the operations and the restaurant industry much better than I would. And we got a few insights from them, tried to incorporate them, and did a very quick pilot in Kharagpur, the campus. Closed area, easy to implement, just onboard a few restaurants and start with that. So that was the first step to see what is the response of the people, of the students. Like, are they open for a reusable container or not?
And what like while you're doing the pilot, or say even like today when you're like running Infinity Box, has some discoveries like really surprised you in this sector, or has some discoveries like really broken the notion that maybe you've started with?
So, I mean, definitely it's been, positively surprising that there are a lot of people who do care about it, who want to opt in for something different, but there are just no other options today, right? The other options would be like a cardboard or a sugarcane bagasse or corn bagasse plates, which first of all are not really environment friendly, which we can delve into later. But then they're also not as sturdy, not as light, not microwavable. So the customer experience is not there. But people still opt in for them because they realize that's a big problem, right? I'm dumping like 5 containers a day in my trash. Where does it go? After a point, it starts adding up, especially after COVID when people were home and they were seeing so much trash being collected. So, what's been positively surprising is that people actually do care about it and are looking for alternate solutions. Um, and I mean, we're hoping that we can cater to that.
And what have been like some of your challenges while building Infinity Box? Like from three aspects: A, on a personal level for you as an individual; B, for say the company; and C, from the customer perspective.
So, on an individual level, of course, I mean, coming from a corporate conventional background, it is difficult to take the leap of entrepreneurship, I would say. But then also to be able to, go and uh, keep on pitching to restaurants about this idea because we're still the only company in the country, right, which is doing this. And explaining them that why the current alternatives are not actually environment friendly, why there's so much misinformation out there. That's I mean, it's a passion area, but also after a point it is, well, let's say, disheartening that there is so much misinformation out there. So to deal with that, I would say
And when you
that's
say
been
like sorry to break you here, when you say misinformation, what kind of misinformation
so
is out there?
very simple example would be the bagasse plate that I was talking about. So given that a lot of the Indian food is curries, usually these bagasse plates have a small thin plastic lining on top to be able to hold any liquid without really absorbing it, leakage happening, etc. What that means is that, and they are the second thing is that they're people are told that it is compostable or biodegradable. See, biodegradable is a very broad term, right? And the ambit of it is huge. So there is everything that is compostable is biodegradable, and everything in the world is effectively biodegradable. Like plastic is also biodegradable, it just takes 400 years, right? But people think that biodegradable means environment friendly, which is not the case. Because if they think it's biodegradable, they dump it in their backyard soil and they think it will go away, right? Which is what exactly is home compostability. That I dump it in my soil, I don't do anything else, no external condition change like oxygen, temperature, and the microorganisms will do their job and it will convert into a carbon dioxide, water, etc., and it's all fine. Now, that's what backyard compostability is. And people think that everything that's biodegradable is backyard compostable, but that's not the case. With these bagasse plates, they are not backyard compostable. They're supposed to be industry compostable, which means they have to be taken to specific facilities which have those specific conditions like high temperature, high oxygen level, pressure, etc., which we cannot create here. And then only do they decompose into the carbon dioxide, water, and other elements. But since people throw it in the soil because they think it's biodegradable, it leaves behind microplastics because that plastic lining is still there, right? And that is actually hurting the environment because you're essentially dumping plastics into the environment, which you said that you would not be doing. Or the second thing is you don't dump it in the soil, you put it in your bin, which then goes to a recycling facility. Hopefully it does. So at the recycling facility also, people are not able to, it is not economically feasible for the recyclers to remove that film and then recycle these containers. It just doesn't work. So they also end up landfilling it. So at the end of the day, using these containers, even though it on the face of it looks that it's environment friendly because it is supposedly biodegradable, but it's not environment friendly at all. And you're having to go through a poorer customer experience while paying more money. So that's the misinformation part, right? The second thing which you asked me on the company level, of course, I mean, we are the category creators, so there have been a lot of challenges creating, making people aware, building partnerships, figuring out how the operations work. All of that is obviously fairly challenging, and we're still very early in our journey, so that will obviously continue. And on the third aspect, sorry, what was the third aspect?
From the customer's point of view,
Customer's point
because
of
what
view.
I have generally heard is that that okay, is this even hygienic? Like
Yeah, of course.
so
So there have been a lot of these concerns. One is hygiene, the other is it convenient for me to do so, etc. So from a hygiene point of view, I mean, before I even go into what we do, I mean, think about going to a hotel or a restaurant that you have been visiting for, I don't know, decades. And you still use a plate there, right? Do you question their hygiene? I mean, that same plate was used by somebody else, pretty sure, might have had non-veg in it if you're a vegetarian. But then we don't question that because we're accustomed to that. With food delivery, we are not accustomed to that, right? That's why that's a bias that we have, and we understand all of that. We understand that it'll take some information dissemination from our end, marketing, etc., to be done, which we will get to. But our processes are actually TUV certified, which is a global, gold standard across the globe in figuring out whether your containers are safe to use. Is there any microplastics leaching onto your food? Are there any bacteria present because of the washing process? Are there any hard metals? And we clear all of them every month, right? So we are the processes that we follow are fairly industry grade, which is not really the case at a normal restaurant where we are okay eating. So even if it's more hygienic, I think it's more of the mental bias that we have to sort of try and change, and we are trying to do that.
and like you're doing a great job, Shashwat. Like I can't really wait for InfinityBox to like roll out Pan India. This is something like really the need of the hour. And when you talked about category creation, like I can understand like how difficult to create a category is. For example, like I remember like when we started with these conversations where climate challenges could be opportunities in disguise, and climate entrepreneurial stories coming out, people thought that why are you doing that? Like no one cares about the solution based approach, everyone cares about issue based approach. So while all those narratives still exist, how difficult has been it for you to create a category, and what keeps you going on a daily basis? Because from outside we can say, oh my god, like Shashwat has partnered with Swiggy and all these amazing chains, but on the insides only that how every day you're working for it. So what sort of mindset, what sort of, I would say, kind of, yeah, actually mindset only has really helped you take Infinity to where it is today?
So, I mean, that's a very difficult question to answer because um, I uh, I think at the end of the day, what drives us is still the thing that drove us on the first day, which is the want to create a sustainable, affordable, and a better solution than what currently exists. And reuse is the most environment friendly way. We just have to figure out how to make it work. So that still drives the entire team, and that's why we do what we do. Of course, it's been difficult because creating a category has its own set of challenges, and it's not as if we have already created one, right? We're still very small. So maybe in a couple of years, when we have created and there are other people coming up, that is when it would make more sense for me to be able to tell you what it takes to build a category. Because today I don't know. Today we're still in that phase of figuring it out, I would say. But what drives us is still the passion to create that solution that makes sense for everything and our future generations.
And how important, are collaborations and partnerships on your journey of, say, building something?
Uh, I think, I mean, not going into the specifics of the market that we're in because that is more of a duopoly at the moment with Zomato and Swiggy. Overall, I think when you're looking to create a category of any sorts, partnerships are very important because you have to scale. Um, uh, and you want to scale quickly because if you're creating category you want to capitalize on your first mover's advantage, and that can only happen when you establish those long-term partnerships which take time and trust to build. But once you are able to do that, I think that is one of the most significant modes or significant protective entry barriers that you can create for yourself as a company. So for us, of course, partnerships are the key to scaling, and we've realized that. Like whether it's Swiggy or a local meal aggregator or any other quick commerce player, we will have to work with them, right? We want to become a reuse platform. So for us, that's a very, very simple strategy that onboard as many partners as you can, because when you're creating a category, you need all the help that you can get.
And now give me, the process. For example, I order, say, on a restaurant or on Swiggy that's partnered with you. Like, what is the process? What happens at, like, for the consumer, for the restaurant, and at the back end?
So at the moment, when we're live in certain areas in Bangalore, the tech integration is still underway. So what happens is Swiggy has a team of dedicated, quite a few customer care agents who give you a call as soon as an order is placed on one of our partner restaurants, and they ask you if you want to opt in for a reusable container, and we don't charge anything extra. So if you do, then we send somebody to collect it from your house at a convenient time. We bring it back to our facilities, wash them, and then replenish the inventory of our partner restaurants. So that's how the process works on Swiggy. You get a call, say yes, and that's it. Nothing else changes for you. You get it in a Tupperware container, and then you can microwave it, use it however you like. That's how the process works. But in about 3 to 4 months' time, when the tech integration is done, that is when there'll be a toggle option on the Swiggy app, giving customers the option of opting in for a reusable container at no extra cost, and also picking the slot that they want. So doing away with the calls as well.
And what would you say is, like, sort of like stopping you from going pan India?
At the moment, I think so. I mean, that's more of a very market specific thing for us, given that it's Swiggy and Zomato, and they do. I mean, we can't move faster than the pace that Swiggy does, right? So we have to be aligned on different, as you rightly pointed out, in partnerships, right? We have to be moving in lockstep, basically. That they have to be aligned with our expectations, we have to be aligned with their expectations, their implementation time, our implementation time, etc. So at the moment, what we're doing is we're scaling in Bangalore to about 5,000 orders a day in the next 3 months, which would already make us the largest reusable company in the world. And then we will scale in Bangalore, Bombay, Delhi, etc. over the next 12 to 18 months.
And Shashwat, like, consider a situation where, say, someone is listening to you right now, he or she wants to execute, say, a same model in maybe, their village or in one of the remote areas of India. So, what should be his or her first steps towards doing that?
So I would say first research and understand the space, right? That's very critical because people still don't do that, right? I mean, customers want an eco-friendly option, so there are a lot of these marketing gimmicks going around that this is eco-friendly, and people are willing to pay more for that, but that's not really, helpful for the environment or for the pockets. I would say research about the space, understand a bit more about what India's requirements are, palette is, who the partner restaurants could be, etc., and then do a quick pilot, right? Whatever plan you come up with, that this is what is needed, this is how I think it could run, and then just onboard a few partners and do a quick pilot, right? So that the learnings that you'll get from that quick pilot will be the ones that will be like, your guiding light throughout. That this was my notion, but this was completely wrong, and that's okay, because that's the whole idea of an MVP, right? So my advice would be research and come up with a quick business plans and pilot.
And did you onboard any investors for Infinity? Like, for example, you got an idea. What were your initial steps? Did you go looking out for an investor first?
So we, at the moment, when we hadn't done a pilot, no, we did not, because this is not we're not doing something very deep tech here. Of course, we use significant amounts of technology. We have a large tech infrastructure in place, but then what we did was do this pilot to see if it works, if there is demand for this service, sorry, and if there is, then we'll figure out how to scale. Thankfully, after we did the MVP, we also did a couple of other pilots which were funded through our various grants and our competitions that we won. And after that, now we are at this phase where we're scaling. Yes, we have onboarded investors who are helping us scale.
And while you onboard investor for, like your impact driven startups, what are the things that, you are sure of? Okay, this is the kind of investor I want. Or what should say any impact driven entrepreneur be sure of?
So, I mean, having been an investor myself in the impact space, I think it is fair to say that we don't treat any impact investor will not treat you differently from a generalistic entrepreneur. Um, and what you're doing by becoming an impact focused entrepreneur is basically setting higher goals for yourself. That you have to deliver profitability, but you also have to create impact along the way. How you define impact is totally on you and your vision for the company. But then what you're looking for an investor is somebody who can beyond the usual network connects, etc., who has the ability to first help you scale, who has the experience, has seen similar companies, and secondly, who has the ability to basically bring on other like-minded investors wherever the other investors are, let's say, have more experience, to help basically build a good board, a complementary board, and that can guide you as you scale, which is very important for an early stage company. So I would say investors that you get along with, who understand you, your company, your vision, and know enough people that can build a complementary team and a board.
And now, like tell me that where as a country are we towards, sustainable food packaging systems? And what opportunities like are there in for say entrepreneurs here?
So I mean, I don't know how to quantify that.
Hmm.
What I do know is how to quantify our movement or inclination towards sustainable food packaging. But what I do know is that people care about it. People have started understanding that it's a problem. Not everybody, of course. I think it's a movement. It'll take time. It'll take marketing. It'll take one of the larger players like a Swiggy or a Zomato to actually, do things on the ground rather than just marketing gimmicks. And we are, in the process of doing that, I think. But will it take time? How much? I wish I could tell you. The second thing is I think there are a lot of opportunities in the food packaging space or packaging space altogether. I mean, it's burgeoning across the globe. Everybody's looking for alternatives to single-use plastic specifically, whether it's created in the lab, whether it's reusing, so product innovations like different materials altogether, business model innovations like a reuse refill, or an end of life innovation, which is basically how do you recycle better, how do you not throw away these containers and utilize them and bring them back into the loop better, right? So there are multiple opportunities that are coming up globally. I would say India is still a bit behind as compared to the tech advancements we have seen in this space, like let's say in Europe, Scandinavia, US, Singapore. But we will get there, right? I mean, that's what usually happens. The technology transfers happen. There are multiple investment funds who are literally looking to bring these technologies to Asia, and India is a hot hub. So I do see a lot of that changing over the next couple of years.
And like, do you have any say suggestions or any recommendations for the government, or for example, say any kind of policies or things that would have helped you scale today from the government side? What would be that?
I mean, coincidentally, this is so I was a part of this selected group of entrepreneurs who presented to Mr. Modi our Prime Minister a while back, and also to multiple ministries. There were like a couple of recommendations. One was this information dissemination around compostability, which can easily be done away with proper labeling. Like if you get a material today, it's compostable, not industry compostable or home compostable, and doesn't specify what that means unless you literally Google it. That's a big problem. It's only ruining your recyclers' revenue streams and also ruining the environment. There's nothing good that's coming out of it. The second thing would be around, very tactically, would be around the plastic ban. So there's a single-use plastic ban coming into effect on 1st of July, which bans everything below, I think, 100 microns. Now, the problem is that there have been multiple single-use plastic bans that have been implemented over the last decade, but none of them have really been implemented on the ground. It usually, unfortunately, leads to extortion by a lot of the local authorities, that you're using any sort of plastic is bad, because that's what it translates to. They don't read about 100 microns or whatever. And plastic is not bad, right? Plastic is probably one of the best inventions that we've had. It's light, it's cheap, for all the reasons that it's used today everywhere. It's just the way that we use it, which is linear, single use, and dispose. But when that starts leading to extortion, and when people start thinking that plastic is bad, that's a huge step backward for us, and that needs to be tackled. So that proper information dissemination about the laws and proper implementation on the ground is what we need today.
Thank you, Shashwat. Thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for being with us today. And more power to what you're doing. And I really hope to see you pan India soon.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Shweta.
Thank you,
Really nice
Shashwat.
talking to you.